Welcome to Let's Talk. Today we're going to talk about washes for army painting. A couple different brands on the market. The three I use the most are probably Citadel paints, Army Painter, and Privateer Press Paints, or P3. So let's talk about Citadel paints first because I have some right here. So their washes come in paint pots, right? They're pretty large size. And I think they're about $6 or $7 each, and they'll last you a pretty good time. Now, the reason I don't really like to use Citadel washes the most is that they kind of mute everything to whatever shade you've used. So there isn't a whole lot of contrast. So like if you use their Nuln Oil, which is a black wash, it will certainly darken the crevices, but it also darkens all of your highlights as well. So if you're looking to mute something or, kind of take away some of the crisp sharpness of a color, then they're the way you want to go. Like if you want to do oily joints or, make a base of the model not as vibrant so that the model itself pops out, then that's probably what you want to go for, Citadel paints. Next on the list we have the Army Painter. Now these are probably my favorite washes. They come in little paint pots like this and they have a dropper top. So that way you only use what you need and your paint won't dry out by the lid having to stay open like a Citadel paint. And what I like the most, other than the usage and you don't have to let it dry out to use it, is that it gives you a good contrast of highs and lows. And so if you're just looking to kind of shade your model to a particular tone or color, or if you just want to give it some darkening in the crevices but don't really want to take away from your highlights, then I would absolutely recommend Army Painter. They do recommend shaking it before use, which is weird for a shade. Most companies are just kind of like, just use it, it's fine. But other than that, it's fantastic. I use it on all of my stuff. So the third one is Privateer Press Paints. Now, they only have a few washes, and most of those are like a flesh tone or an armor wash or whatever. And they're not bad. They come in a dropper bottle as well, and they're pretty cheap. I think they run $3.50 to $4.50 right now, so that's not terrible either. The biggest problem with them is that most of the other washes that they have are inks. So the inks have a really high pigment, meaning that they're going to change the color of whatever you put it on. So their black wash is pretty good for doing oily joints and things like that. It has the same kind of texture and feel as Citadel paint, so you don't get the best contrast between highs and lows on a model. But as far as the inks go, what I like to use the inks for is to thin out a thicker paint or an older paint, just because it's got that high pigment. So when you thin it out, you don't lose any of the color. But because it's an ink, you will change the color slightly if you're using, like, let's say, a red ink to thin out a pink or something like that. So those are the three main washes that I use. If you're looking to just start out, Army Painter sells a nice pack of washes. I think it's $35 to $45. Comes with like 10 different colors. Or you could just buy a large can of it, but their cans are more of a lacquer, so it is a hard coat built in. So if you're going to do that, don't expect to be able to go back and do any highlighting after. It'll be much more difficult, and because it creates a thin layer, the highlight paint will just seem to be floating there. So I recommend the smaller dropper bottles if you're going to do Army Painter, just because I like to then go and paint my highlight over the top. And because you get those highs and lows of Army Painter, when I do a highlight, it pops, but it's not overly extreme. And we'll be able to talk about that in some of the other videos. So that's all I got right now for the Let's Talk on Army washes, or on paint washes. Yeah, have a good one.